Thanks for joining the Young Adults group. Tonight we'll be discussing Kratom, which is useful for pain relief. It's better than some other alternatives, such as pain relievers in some cases due to fewer side effects. And we've got Chandler, one of the co-moderators, here to give us an overview of his experience and research in the Kratom. So Chandler, if you want to give the quick background on yourself.
Yeah, I started taking Kratom about 5 years ago. I was around 16, or no, I was like 17. I started taking it. I got diagnosed with FSHD when I was 16, and they were going to send me to a pain clinic, and I didn't really want to do all that. So I started doing research into natural alternatives, and I found Kratom and I purchased it online, and then I started taking it. It's like a powder, and you basically just mix it with water, and you just drink it like that, and it gives really good pain relief, and it's not like extremely addictive. It's like a cousin to the coffee plant, so it's very closely related to coffee, and if you take smaller doses of it, it's like more of like a stimulating thing where it gives you energy. And if you take bigger doses, that's more for like the pain relief and sedative effects.
So did you try like a variety of things early on and then just decide Kratom was the one to stick with? Or how did that journey go?
Yeah, yeah, because ibuprofen, acetaminophen, none of that stuff really helped me at all. So that's when I started doing research, and that's how I found.
Can I ask you where were you experiencing the pain? What are your major pain issues?
Um, Mainly in my shoulders. My arms are really weak and my shoulders are very weak. And at the time I was working a lot, like 6 days a week. So it's mainly in my shoulders, my arms, and yeah, that's my main pain. Sometimes in my back too.
Okay.
And then you mentioned that you started off with a smaller dose and that helped with energy, and then you increased that a bit and started helping with pain relief. Can you give a little bit of
Yeah.
context for the people that might want to try it on what dosage you ended up with?
Yeah. So doing research, Kratom actually acts in a very interesting way in the body where, like I said, if you take like smaller doses, which is like half a teaspoon or to a teaspoon, it tends to be like more uplifting and energizing and doesn't have sedative effects. And then like once you get like half a tablespoon up to like a tablespoon, that's when it can help with sleep and pain. And even the smaller doses help with pain too.
And you do that like once a day, I assume.
Yeah, use it like two or three times if it's smaller doses. And it's one of those things where the dose kind of varies for between different people. Some people expect like if you weigh more, naturally you might need a little more of it to have certain effects, and then some people might need smaller doses because bigger doses are too sedative for them.
And so, if I understood you correctly, you prefer just like one large dose a day versus breaking it up throughout the day.
Usually I do around two or three smaller doses for me.
Is that just to help it be a little bit more persistent throughout the day?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Instead of just taking it at once, I'll just split it up into smaller doses, so it lasts all day.
Is it, you mentioned it's similar to caffeine, which I don't have too much experience with, but like that tends to work pretty fast and then kind of start leveling off over the next few hours. It does Kratom tend to have a similar half-life to caffeine from what you've experienced.
Yeah, I actually do think that has similar half life. When you take it, usually it takes about 30 20 to 40 minutes to kick in, and it usually lasts for around 5 or 6 hours. 4 to 6 hours as a general rate.
Okay.
And then what about taking like with food or anything like that?
Yeah, food, I haven't noticed that really affects it either way. I just take it whenever I feel like I need to take it, and food doesn't seem to make it work any less.
And then is it one of those where like if you take it for a prolonged period of time or whatnot, you have to increase the dose for it to continue to have the same effect?
It can be, it depends. For me, like when I first started taking it, I had to play around and find the right dose. But now usually my doses are pretty consistent. I haven't really had to increase it in a very long time. Usually I take the same, just like a level spoonful every like 2 or 3 times a day. So yeah, it depends. Some people might need to up it a little more over time. Some people are more sensitive to it. And some people like me, like I can just take the same dose, same times a day, and it usually has the exact same effect.
And any side effects that you noticed other than the increased energy?
Not really. If you take too much of it, um, it can make your stomach hurt, of course, because you're consuming plant matter, but not really any stomach issues for me usually. And if you take like way too much, it can make you feel extra sleepy, and you'll just want to sleep. But other than that, it seems to, I don't really get any like side effects from it.
Have you spoken to others that have tried it and have they had similar experiences from what you've heard?
Yeah, I have actually. Usually it's there's people I talk to with diabetes that take it, and they help them with a lot of things. Some people have used it to get off of like alcohol and stuff because it's way less addictive than alcohol, obviously, and they've had pretty good experiences with it too.
And where do you obtain it? Is it something that you get online or from a local store?
Yeah, I tend to get it online. It's better to like do research on the company and make sure that everything is good. And the American Kratom Association, they actually have a whole list of vendors where you can order it from online. That's like the highest quality, that's tested for everything. So yeah, the AKA, the American Kratom Association, they have some really good info on it, and they have tons of different vendors that they work with, and they're able to verify that it's good and there's no contaminants and stuff like that.
From those vendors, is it pretty affordable or is it one of the more expensive options available?
It's pretty affordable. Um, from my experience, I maybe spend like 50 or 60 a month on it, but it just depends. That yeah, usually, it's pretty affordable. It's not really like super expensive.
And does it last a while? Like, do you have to get it from the store pretty often because of a short shelf life? Or
No, it can actually be stored for a very long time as long as it's properly sealed and stored. It can be stored for a while. Yeah.
cool. Well, just we've had a couple of people join, so we started diving into discussion on Kratom. Chandler's given a brief background on himself. If you don't mind doing the highlights again, Chandler, that would be appreciated. And then we're just kind of doing Q&A at this point.
Yeah. I started taking it maybe about 5 years ago. I didn't want to get on any painkillers or anything like that, and it's helped me a lot. It's changed my life a lot. It's the reason, Kratom is the reason that I was able to actually work so long before I went on disability about a year ago. I take it about 2 or 3 times a day. It also helps with a lot of the mental effects of FSHD, because that's one of the worst things about this condition is the effect that it has on you mentally. And I just take it 2 or 3 times a day. It helps a lot with pain, anxiety, depression. Um, it depends on you kind of have to find the right dose for you that works for you, because some people will be looking for more of like just a little more energy, and some people want the more pain relieving effects. So if you take smaller doses, then you will get more of the energizing effects, and the bigger doses will give you more pain relief effects. But I noticed that even the smaller doses tend to help a lot with the pain. And I buy it maybe once a month. It has a good shelf life. Um, it can be, it's like caffeine or coffee, where it can be addictive, like anything can be addictive. And so like if you quit taking it, you might have some, just to notice you might feel a little more lethargic for maybe like a week or two. Kind of like how caffeine, when you come off of it, you're gonna feel a little bit crappy for maybe a couple of days, a week, 2 weeks, but nothing really too bad. And you can order online. I find that that's the best way to do it, is to order online. It's cheaper in bulk. And like I said, the American Kratom Association, they have tons of info on their website about it, and they have a list of different vendors that are the best vendors that you can get it from. Where they test it thoroughly for contaminants and all that.
That was a good recap. And earlier you walked through a couple of alternatives that you tried. One I didn't think you mentioned was the CBD oil that we talked about like 2 or 3 weeks ago, or 2 or 3 meetings ago. Have you
Oh
tried
yeah,
that?
I have tried CBD. CBD is one of those things I noticed from my research, that a lot of the CBD out there, you have to really make sure that what you're getting is like actual good CBD. But I tried it a couple of times. I haven't really had extensive experience with it, but just because Kratom has helped so much. But you can also combine CBD with Kratom, and it's they can have a synergistic effect where they both help, and it doesn't really seem to react to CBD or anything like that from my research. And then I tried obviously like over the counter ibuprofen, acetaminophen, and those really don't help with my muscle pain much at all.
It sounds like you've had a pretty positive experience with it, and you mentioned some people you've spoken to have as well. Any negative feedback from others that have tried it before? Have you heard any?
You said what? I'm sorry.
Have you heard any like negative experiences with it?
Yeah, some people with really addictive personalities, like people that have struggled with drug use, can tend to go like overboard on it, and they can have more of the side effects like nausea and like a little too much of a sedative effect. And there was like times where when I first started taking it, and was trying to find the right dose, maybe take a little too much and get a little bit nauseous or dizzy. But that was just me trying to figure out what was the right dose. And then once I figured that out, it hasn't really had many negative effects at all since then. Yeah, for the most part, when people do have negative effects, it tends to be like nausea if you have a very weak stomach, or if you take too big of a dose, you might feel a little too sleepy. And then obviously like caffeine or anything like that, like if you do decide to suddenly quit taking it, you can have like effects, or maybe you'll feel a little more pain or exhaustion for a couple of days, a week, maybe 2 weeks,
We've got a few people now curious if anybody else has tried it. I haven't personally.
I have. Sorry, I was late. I've been using it for like or 6 years now. I started using it after I fractured my elbow, and I was in a lot of pain, and I didn't want to keep taking, you know, at the time it was like Tylenol 3 or something. So I read about it on Reddit, and I, researched some of the places to get it, and decided I would try it. And I don't know. Oh, where'd he go?
Oops.
I don't know if he makes his own. Do you make your own capsules, or do you buy them like pre-made?
Sorry, I cut out for a second. Were you talking to me?
Yeah, I was
You were
wondering,
asking me if I did.
like, do you make your capsules, or do you buy them do they come in a capsule, or do you buy the powder and then put it in a capsule? Or do you just drink it,
Oh,
or
I actually don't. I just mix mine with water. I use like a.
Oh no, got a loose connection.
we lost you?
Sorry, my Wi-Fi is acting weird. But yeah, I don't put it in the capsules. I just mix it with like warm water.
Okay.
I'll use a tablespoon measure and just mix it in the water and drink it that way.
Okay.
But
I
sometimes people have a reaction to the taste, and so they put it in capsules to make it easier.
Yeah, I could not stand the taste. It's really, really strong. And
Yeah, it is kind of bitter.
yeah, it's bitter, and it's just sort of a pain because it's like a really fine powder. So it gets like stuck on the inside of your glass, and it's like gloppy and gross.
Mhm.
So I make my own capsules. Like I get it in a bag like this. And then
Mhm.
I have a little machine, not a machine, it's just a little like pill thing that you put the empty capsules in, and then you fill
Mhm.
and like press the top down, and then put like the cap on. And it sounds like a pain in the butt, but it's probably a quarter of what people pay for it if you buy like the pre-made, if you buy capsules at like a gas station or a vape shop or one of those kind of places. They're like really expensive. Uh,
Mhm.
so I've found like I can't deal with the taste, but I can deal with it in the capsules. And they're kind of,
Mhm.
the ones I make are kind of big, but I don't have a problem swallowing them. I couldn't get past the taste. Lots of people said to do orange juice. I tried every combination of liquid, and it just, I couldn't do it. But I've had really good experience with it too. It's helped eat a lot. And I think it's a good thing to note that I forget how this goes. It's an opioid, but not an opiate, right? So it
Mhm.
doesn't depress your breathing. It doesn't have an effect on your breathing.
Yeah, that.
It's really important for us FSHers, because
Mhm.
anything that does that, you risk all kinds of things. And that's, what, painkillers do. Um, so it's really
Mhm.
a good point, like, I think, to bring up with this. And I don't know, I don't want to like be gross, but um, I have like IBS, like I have, you know, it's gotten worse as my FSH has gotten worse. And I think that they're somehow related. Um, a couple other people I've talked to have said that they have this same kind of issues. And Kratom is the only thing that helps with that for me. It like completely controls it so that I'm regular. And
Mhm.
if I stop taking it for a day or two, that's that's how I remember that I haven't taken it, because all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to go to the bathroom. It's like, so I think, you know, for some people it might make you constipated because again, it's an opioid and they have that effect. But for me, that's a helpful side effect. So
And it also one thing that really helps with constipation, if you do have that from kratom, is magnesium. There's certain forms of magnesium that are, because my sister, she had like extremely bad thyroid problems, and she was born with a condition where her intestines were basically tied in a knot at birth. So she's had like severe constipation before. Magnesium helps her a lot too. So just a tip, if anybody does start taking kratom and you do have like constipation, magnesium, milk and magnesium, I think really helps with that.
yeah, definitely. And I agree about like the worst side effect I've had is if I take it on an empty stomach, it makes me really nauseated. Or if I take more
Mhm.
than my regular dose, it makes me really nauseated. So I would definitely, like, if anyone's thinking about trying it, like start really small and work your way up.
Yeah,
Um, I measured out, when I make my capsules, I use like a kitchen scale, and just measured out like I made a bunch of pills and then averaged out about how much was in each one, so that I could figure out how much I was taking. And I think I probably take about um I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 milligrams a day, or not milligrams, sorry, grams. So they're pretty big pills. Here, I'll show you. This is what they look like. So they're not they're
Mhm.
not tiny, but they're not too big. Um, and I would like, if anyone is going to start trying them, I would start off with just like 1 or 2 grams at a time and work your way up, because
Yeah,
it can be, I definitely wouldn't like take it in the beginning and like drive a car. Like I would wait
yeah,
and see how it's going to affect you. Like the dose that I take now, I don't really feel any different, but like I said, if I don't take it, I notice I feel more lethargic, more achy, and I get the runs. So
yeah. And I think a lot of that one thing I've noticed is that kratom helps my pain so much. So I feel like when I don't take it, part of the reason that, that aches and pains are a lot more noticeable is because I usually don't feel that. So when because of the kratom, I don't feel it. So when I like take a break or stop taking it for a couple of days, it's like I'm feeling what I actually used to feel all the time with FSHD, just on a regular basis. But like I'm not used to feeling it again because I haven't felt that bad in such a long time. That's
yeah,
one thing I've noticed.
like I feel like I have a pretty high pain tolerance, and I don't always realize that I'm in pain, but like what it manifests as is fatigue, like it's like I
Hmm.
don't really realize that I'm in pain until I take my dose, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually like can, move around and like, pick stuff up or do stuff that I've been unable to do all day or putting off all day because I was tired and achy or whatever. Um, it just makes me feel, and I don't know if it's, the kratom makes me feel more energetic, or if it's just because I experienced some pain relief and therefore
Hmm.
that equals energy. But
You mentioned there or earlier that it hasn't affected breathing. are there any other key considerations that you had to work through before deciding to start using originally?
I mean, if you read, like I did a lot of reading before I started taking it, and there are a lot of people, like on Reddit who are like, oh my God, this, like I stopped taking it and I was violently ill, or like they had really drastic side effects. I didn't experience anything like that, and I don't experience anything like that when I stopped taking it. But I think that other people, everybody's tuned differently. So some people might really feel something that like I don't even notice, So I think there's definitely like, when you start taking it, your body will get used to it. And if you stop taking it, you'll have some side effect, whether that's headache, nausea, feeling achy. It's kind of like mild flu-like symptoms, which makes sense because it's an opioid. So, that's what withdrawal, and this is it's such a mild form of it that I would say like if I took like 3 times the dose that I usually take, it might be like taking a Tylenol 3, which now they don't make anymore. So I don't know. I don't know what to compare it to anymore, but it's not a very strong thing. But people that have addiction issues, it's probably something that you should read about or, talk to somebody about before you take it. But I haven't had any issues like one way or the other. I can stop taking it, I can start taking it, and I'm, no worse for the wear. But oh, and itchiness. Some people get really itchy.
Yeah, I bet you read about that.
I think like for me, that's a sign that I've taken too much. If I'm itchy, it's a sign that I've probably taken too high of a dose. But again, that's something that you just have to kind of figure out on your own. Everybody's different.
Makes sense. And Rakesh, glad you could join us as well. If you have any experience with Kratom as well, that would be helpful for people to hear. Gina, I don't know if you had any questions you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I had a question about I guess dosage or whatever. So is there like an active ingredient where they tell you like it's X% this stuff and then you figure out your dose based on that, or do you just kind of take the powdered leaf and
Yeah,
weigh it?
the powdered leaf. The only thing that is in it is the powder. Like they don't mix anything in it. There shouldn't be anything else in it but kratom.
The plant itself probably has varying degrees of whatever chemical it is that is.
I don't know what the chemical is, but there are like 4 kinds of.
It's I think the main active ingredient for pain relief is 7-hydroxymystrogynine, and it's usually there's varying amounts in certain strains, but you're not gonna have one batch that has like way more. Like it's usually somewhat consistent from the test results I've seen on batches, but it'll just vary a little more. And then there's I believe there's like 3 different types. There's red vein, green vein, and white vein, and basically the most simple way to explain that is red vein tends to be like better for pain relief. White vein is like better for energy. And I believe that mitragynine, not 7-hydroxymystrogynine, or no, it might be microfilling is the one that the alkaloid that gives more energizing, and that's what's in the right vein. And then the green strain is like in between pain relief and energy. And the only really difference is that it depends on what time they harvest them. So like the white vein, I believe that it's harvested earlier in the process where it doesn't have as much 7-hydroxymystrogynine, which is the pain relief one, but it has higher levels of mystrophyline, I think is what it's called, which is the energizing one. And then the red strain is the pain relief one, and it's harvested later, like they let it grow for longer, and so it has higher levels of that pain relieving one. But I noticed that more or less all of them, regardless of if it's red, white, and green, they all tend to help with pain and energy for me. And there's usually not too big of a difference between the red, white, and green for me.
Yeah, me too. And so it's kind of like tea, like, black tea and green tea and white tea, it's
Hmm.
sort of like that. Like you pick whatever strain you want, red, green, or white. But they're all basically they all basically have the same caffeine, or they don't have caffeine in them, but that's my example. Like it's like different kinds of tea, but every tea bag or every box of tea has the same amount of caffeine, more or less. It's some might just be a little more energizing or a little less, but they're not very different.
So
Yeah,
is
it's kind of like with weed, like, oh, sorry, with like marijuana, how there's like the sativa and the indica, and one is for energy, and then the other one is more for relaxation. And then there's like the hybrid strains of weed that's like for both. It's kind of like comparable to that too.
Yeah.
and is that like kind of well known and label on the label or something, like this is more for
When
energy, more for
like you when you buy it, the website, whatever website you use, will say like which, like this one, you can see there's 4 options of red,
Mhm.
the kinds of red that they have. And so on their website, all the kratom is organized by the color, and then each color has 4 varieties. And then also have like a blend of some of them. And I would say, like, if you're just getting into it, to just get a small, packet, a small, like 100 grams or something of each one, and just try them
Mhm.
all and see. Like, I know the white kind, I did have one experience where I used a white kind that I didn't usually take, and it made me kind of anxious. But that was the only. I usually stick to red and green.
uh-huh.
Oh, and I forgot to say, it makes you really dehydrated too. Like, it makes you thirsty. So you have to be really, you have to make sure you drink your water when you take it.
Okay,
Mhm.
very interesting. And there must be all kinds of brands. I mean, you did
Yeah.
some
How did you choose? How did you choose yours?
I just did research, and Reddit was very helpful too, and I looked up what people had the best experiences with, and then sometimes I'll switch up the brands though. Um, and like I was saying earlier, especially for like beginners when you're just researching and just getting into it, it's best to go on the American.
oh no, we lost Chandler again.
Sorry, I cut out again. but especially when you're beginning, it's best to go on the American Coding Association and just kind of look on there what they have to say and what brands they recommend the most, and then try it out and just kind of experiment and see which brand works for you. And like she was saying, like start out with like a really small bag, maybe get like a red, a green, and a white, just a small bag of each, and just see which one helps for you.
And like I had to like keep a log, when I first started taking it to figure out, okay, like if I would take something, I would mark how much I was taking, what kind it was, and that way I could keep track of, what I was trying, if something was off, or if it was, if I was taking too little or too much. That's how I figured it out, was by just writing down, like keeping a log of what I was doing.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
And the one I've been getting it from the same place forever, this Inland Botanicals, which is in Idaho, I think. Because I read about them. I read a bunch of people on Reddit, and how they took it and how they did it and where they got it. And this was an overwhelmingly positive choice for businesses, and they ship to me. I've never had any issues with them, and they do their stuff is, they do have it tested, so there is some measure of quality control. And like he said, the American Kratom Association is like really, really well put together group, and they are a really good source for all of this stuff. They are like really on top of advocacy and making sure that stuff is tested and all of that. So I would highly recommend them, but it's not, I don't think it's legal in every state still. So again, I guess people should, I would go on the American Kratom Association website and find out if their state has any issues with it. I'm in Pennsylvania, and it's never been illegal here.
yeah. I think there's like six states that they outlawed it for just whatever reason. I know a lot in those states that drug companies, a lot of them have like a hand in that. But that's just a topic, but that's a conversation for another day. But anyway, yeah, in most states there's not.
Yeah, and once I was pulled over on a cross country road trip, and I had a couple of big bags of Kratom with me, and I was like, and the cops were like, I don't care. We don't care about that. I don't think something that is on most law enforcement's register, because it's just not, like, I would equate it to pot in terms of like how, or marijuana in terms of how, strong, or like, I don't know. I just feel like it's one of those things that you can't really, like, you can't overdose on this. You can't take too much that you'll die. You can take enough of this that you can make yourself feel sick, which is true of basically every substance. But it's really not something that is easy to abuse, nor is it fun to abuse. It's just not. So
Yeah.
like, that's why it is legal in most states, because it really does benefit a lot of people. And it doesn't have, like, all of the states that have bans on Kratom, have cited like this one person who died without saying, oh, but they were also on a bunch of other substances, which was the whole thing. Obviously, if you mix substances, then that's not a good idea. But if you die, you can't say it's just from one substance that the person was taking. So there's like this one case that they bring up in court and throw around to try to ban it, but it's not really it's been overruled in almost every state because it just doesn't, there's not enough evidence to say it's bad.
Yeah, and the only death reports I've read about, they had like one of the guys had 9 different drugs in his system, and they were drugs that like had contradictions, like they were drugs that are deadly if you combine them. So it's like, how
Yeah.
likely is it that it just so happened to be the kratom and not the 9 other drugs that had contradictions?
Right.
Yeah. I was very interested to read that people who had developed a dependency on an opiate, and it's very hard to get off because the withdrawal is so unpleasant, but that they take kratom, and I mean almost instantly, like first time, like it eliminates the craving for the withdrawal symptoms for the opiate, and they're able to kind of transition off. I mean, which, if that's true, that's pretty amazing and really important, because long-term use of opiates has all kinds of bad
Yeah.
effects. And it's also, especially with a lot of different places starting to, the pendulum is swinging again against like over prescribing, opiate drugs, and then people who have real legitimate medical pain issues aren't able to treat it, and they end up like using street drugs and
Right.
fentanyl or something. So I think kratom is something that can be effective for their pain and also to treat the opiate side effects. I think that could be really important. I wish there was more research going on it, because
Mm-hmm.
I've read a lot that some people take it to stop drinking, also to drink less. And I don't know if, I mean, I've taken it while I've been drinking, and I've also taken it now that that I'm not drinking, and it doesn't seem to have changed the experience for me at all, but some people say that it really helps with alcoholism.
very interesting.
This has been really helpful. I appreciate everybody taking the time to share their experiences. Any other questions from the group? Any other comments from the people that have had experience with it? No, we've covered a good bit already.
I would
I
just
would just,
reach out if you.
yeah, I was just gonna say, like I've been saying, do your research. The American Kratom Association is really great. Tons of info. And again, just start out small, smaller bags, and just find the dose that works best for you, and don't overdo it. Don't try to take too much at one time. And yeah, that's really it.
Some people, when I started to take it, when I was reading about it, some people when they were writing in the message boards about it, they would write about burning it like incense. And apparently in the places that it was illegal, that was the use that they were like, oh, it's incense. It's not for digestion. That's how they got to sell it in other states. But I just want to make like, it's not incense and you shouldn't burn it or light it on fire or smoke it or anything like that. It's strictly to be swallowed. And that's just like one of those weird turns of phrases that people, I think, were using to just like get around a law or a regulation or something. But it's not incense.
Well, this was really interesting and useful. I'd love to compile some resources, including links like to these Reddit groups that, and Hillary, if you, you must buy your capsule maker somewhere, or because that might be.
Yeah, I bought everything on Amazon, and I can certainly email you a link, with the examples of the stuff that I bought. It's, really simple stuff, and you just buy the little clear capsules. And so I can send links to all that if you want.
That would be great. That would be really helpful. I can pull that into a blog post. Great. Well, are there any other comments or? No, we're good. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you everyone for coming and listening.
we really appreciate you sharing your experiences. And we'll see you next time. All right.
Everyone.
Care.
Bye.